Friendship is the pet subject of all feel-good moralists. Here, they seek bliss. In every person, two motives drive action. The first is self-interest, which comes from within. The second is concern for others, which comes from our relationships with them and serves as the moral motive. In every person, these two motives are in conflict. If self-interest didn't keep demanding our attention, we would care for others and work toward their happiness. At the same time, we know deep down that acts of self-interest carry no moral merit, having at most the permission of moral laws. Yet genuinely caring about mankind and working to promote the happiness of others are great merits. However, we attach particular importance to whatever makes us a better or more worthy person, and this is where friendship comes in.
But how do we actually go about this? Should we first, out of self-interest, take care of our own happiness and only then turn our attention to the happiness of others? Or should we put other people's happiness first? In the first case, the happiness of others gets subordinated to our own. The inclination toward our own happiness grows stronger and stronger. The pursuit of our own happiness has no natural end, and caring about others just falls away. In the other case, that is, if we begin by looking after other people's happiness, our own happiness gets left behind. But if everyone were so minded that each person looked out for everyone else's happiness, then each person's welfare would be taken care of by the people around him or her. If we knew that others would care for our happiness as we cared for theirs, there would be no reason to fear being left behind. The happiness I gave to another would be returned to me. There would be a mutual exchange of welfare and nobody would lose out, because others would look after our happiness just as attentively as we looked after theirs. It might seem as if we lose out when we care for other people's happiness, but if they're doing the same for you, you're not losing anything at all. In that case, the happiness of each would be promoted by the generosity of others. This is the whole idea of friendship, where self-interest gives way to a generous, mutual concern for one another. Let's now examine the other side of the picture, the scenario where each person looks out for their own happiness and is indifferent to that of others. In that case, everyone is certainly entitled to take care of themselves. There is no moral merit in this, though it does have the sanction of the moral law. As long as I'm not getting in anyone's way while pursuing my own happiness, I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm not doing anything particularly right either.
But if we had to choose between friendship and self-interest, which should we choose? On grounds of virtue, we should choose friendship, but on practical grounds, we should choose self-interest, since no one could take better care of my own happiness than I could myself. In either case, however, there is always something amiss. If we choose only friendship, our own happiness suffers. If we choose only self-interest, there is no moral merit or worth in that choice.
True friendship is an ideal because it is not derived from experience, but instead has its seat in intellect. Empirical examples of friendship are extremely defective, but for moral life, it is an indispensable ideal. Let's take this opportunity to define what we mean by an ideal and a model. We require a standard for measuring degree. This standard is either arbitrary if the quantity is not determined a priori by concepts, or natural if the quantity is determined a priori by concepts. What then is the determinate standard by which we measure quantities that are determined a priori? The standard in such cases is always the maximum, the upper limit of what is possible. Where this maximum serves as a measure of lesser quantities, it is an ideal. Where it serves as a pattern for them, it is a model.
Now, if we compare the caring inclinations of people toward one another,
We find that the degrees and proportions in which they distribute their affection between themselves and others vary greatly. The maximum reciprocity of affection constitutes true friendship, and friendship is an ideal because it serves as the measure by which we can determine reciprocal affection. The greatest affection I can have for another is to love him as myself. I cannot love anyone more than that. But if I'm going to love him as I love myself, I must be assured that he will love me as much as himself, in which case what I give away come back to me, and I get myself back in the process. This ideal of friendship enables us to measure how true a friendship is and to see the extent to which it falls short. When Socrates said, "My dear friends, there are no friends," what he was really saying is that no friendship ever fully matches the ideal of friendship. And he was right, since that kind of perfect conformity isn't in fact possible. But the ideal is fully meaningful nonetheless. Assume that I choose only friendship and that I care only for my friend's happiness in the assurance that he similarly cares only for my happiness. Our care is then truly mutual, and everything balances out. I look after my friend's happiness from generosity, and he looks after mine. I'm not throwing my happiness away, I'm putting it in his hands, while his happiness is in my hands. But this ideal is valid only in reflective thought. In practical life, such things don't occur. But if everyone cared only for himself and never troubled about anyone else, there would be no friendship at all, so the two things must be combined. Each person cares for their own happiness and for that of others as well, but because no limits are fixed in this matter, and there can be no indication of degree as to how far one should care for oneself and how far for others, the right level of sacrifice cannot be determined by any law or formula. I do have a responsibility to look after my own needs and to my comfort in life. If I cannot care for the happiness of my neighbor except by giving up my own basic needs, nobody can reasonably demand that I do that and show friendship toward him. But since each of us has our own measure of need and can raise that standard at will, there is no way to determine when the satisfaction of needs should give way to friendship. There is no question, however, that many of the things we have turned into necessities are of such a nature that we could well sacrifice them for a friend. Friendship can be divided into three types based on, respectively, need, enjoyment, and character.